What's the crack, folks? Welcome back to another YouTube video. So I'm on the pitch today, obviously, and I'm going to be running through a conditioning session, so a tempo running style session. So I mentioned in the last video that we have a pretty big gap now until championship, since the league is finished. So it's really important for me and for anyone in that same situation that you kind of stay in touch with your aerobic capacity, stay in touch with being familiar with the pitch surface as well. So kind of making the most of the good weather. It's still a bit windy down here at my club. It's always, the Shannon is just over here, so there's always like a gust of wind no matter what weather it is. But I'll try and run with it today, and it might be helpful throughout these tempo runs. So yeah, going to get stuck into a couple of 100-meter runs, 200-meter runs, and then 300-meter runs. Okay, so we're going to have short kind of rest time between each interval, and the aim of this in terms of intensity is we're not going at maximum intensity, or it's not going to be max velocity speed or anything like that. It's going to be sub-maximal, so working around, I suppose, 75% effort of your max speed, and that's kind of a good way to work on your aerobic capacity and stay in touch with fitness levels, especially with this gap. And it's something that you can kind of work on as well if you're in the thick of games. Maybe you're not getting as much game time, or maybe have a break week, maybe you're coming back from injury. These types of sessions are good to kind of get the lungs going and keep up your aerobic capacity work as well. So I'm going to get stuck into this one here. Starting off with the 100-meter runs, I've got 8 of them to do with 30 seconds rest in between each one. So going to go through a warm-up here first, just make sure the body's feeling good before we go into them. And yeah, I'll try and show you a couple of clips along the way. But yeah, this is a pretty good, I suppose, session you can use to top up with in season. Again, if you have a gap in time, or there's not many games happening at the minute, or maybe you're not getting much game time at the minute as well, it's a good way to stay topped up with your aerobic capacity work, obviously alongside your speed efforts as well throughout the week. So it's a different kind of an adaptation that we're looking for here. It's more aerobic capacity compared to working on more intentful efforts in terms of speed and accelerations. So I leave that for another day, but today I want to go through this kind of tempo running session and just kind of give you a structure and a layout for something that you could focus on as well. Now obviously, if you feel as though, yes, you are on the pitch a lot, but you still need to maybe top up on kind of conditioning based work, off-feet conditioning is going to be another option that you can use to kind of, it's going to have less stress overall on the body, especially on the joints and the impact on the ground and things like that. And obviously, especially if the weather is pretty shit, or if the pitch conditions are pretty bad, getting into a gym and going on a bike or a ski erg or a rower, doing a couple of intervals on them is going to be really, really good for that as well. And obviously kind of working in those time ranges or distance ranges on those machines and giving yourself, I suppose, adequate recovery to stay in that zone of working aerobic capacity. So yeah, that's pretty much the drill of today's session. So I don't know if I'm looking forward to getting into it, but we'll give it a go here anyways. Looking forward, I guess, just kind of moving on the pitch again. So training is, we're still team training and stuff like that, and it's good that we're kind of ticking away at that, and hopefully we will get a few more challenge games as well in between this gap now between league and championship. But just even for myself, I'm playing midfield most of the time during games, so I suppose there's a lot of tracking up and tracking back, maybe not at maximum speed or anything like that. It's rare that we hit, I suppose, our max velocity speed in a game continuously, but it's a lot of kind of tracking back at sub-max speeds. So the better I can get at that, and the better I can get at recovering between these intervals that I'm going to do, that's going to, I suppose, benefit me more than in a game, and being able to recover and go again and recover and go again. So I suppose that's kind of the main aim of these runs, build up that capacity in the lungs and get them moving and improve them. So we'll get stuck into a warm-up here. It's not actually too cold. I'll probably be needing to take this windbreaker off now in a couple of minutes, go through a couple of mobility movements, go through a couple of dynamic movements here as well, and I'll take a few clips, and hopefully you do find it helpful. So that's a majority of the warm-up done now. Went through a few bits on the floor there just to kind of get the body moving, a bit of mobility, into some activation and into some more specific sort of movements. So I went through some pogo hops, just try and build up some ankle stiffness there, reactivity off the floor, get used to the surface. This pitch in particular, we played a match on it last Tuesday, just a challenge game, and it was absolutely rock hard. I mean, like, it felt like you were just running along the top of it. It was so hard, there was no like sink down into it at all. But today there's a nice bit of, I suppose it feels more cushiony under the feet, which is nice with all that rain we had. So that's one good thing from the rain. It does soften the ground a little bit for football players and field sport athletes, so can't complain. But yeah, went in through a couple of pogos, some off the single leg, a couple of bounds, a couple of A skips, and a couple of shuffles and things like that, a couple of what would you say, ankle dribbles and shin dribbles and knee dribbles as well. So I went through a couple of short distances of them just out past the 13-metre line. So I'm actually going to go into a couple of speed efforts before I get into my intervals today, because I am feeling good and I haven't done much speed work the last couple of days, so I just want to get a small bit of exposure to that. So going to go for about 30 metres and just kind of bleed into it with a dribble. So start off now over the ankles and then higher over the shins, higher over the knees, and just kind of working on those postures and positions for upright running. So going to go for 3 reps out to the 30 metre and just walk back recovery. And then I'll take a small bit of rest and I'll get into my first set of 100-metre intervals, 8 reps to do, and it's a nice bit of distance to cover. It's just under 5k altogether in the intervals, so I'm going to get stuck into that. And actually for the intervals, I have it done out on my Garmin watch, so I actually have the workout just done out, so in distance, so that I'm not always looking down at the watch. I'll hear the beep when I hit 100 metres. I'll try and consistently hit 100 metres at a similar time for each of them, and then I'll have my rest recovery on the watch here itself. So I do find it handy with the Garmin. You can create these workouts and you can set the distance so that you're not always maybe looking down, or maybe if you're training on an unfamiliar pitch that isn't marked out, or that is maybe different distance, I suppose, in length and width. It's just handy to have that on the watch. So, but yeah, I'll get into these max efforts and then I'll get into my intervals. So that's the max efforts done. Felt pretty good. So the focus there is obviously on upright running, so being nice and springy off the floor, like leg action throughout the run, and stay nice and control in your trunk and in your pelvis, to try and, I suppose, minimise those excessive braking forces, sinking down into it with your leg. Want to be nice and springy off the floor. And those are things I'll focus on now as well going into these intervals, focusing on my technique. So that I'm not leaking any energy anywhere, and basically that I'm giving myself optimal positions to run in. And again, that's going to help with reducing injury risk, especially those soft tissue injuries, which can be very common, and a lot of the time they can be down to poor movement efficiency. So those will be the things I'll focus on. But yeah, just pushed it out past the 30 metre for those, built it up, dribble over the ankles, over the shins, over the knees, and then followed through that, I suppose, technique into the into the upright position to finish out the sprint. I really like doing them actually. It kind of gets you into that cyclical motion instead of you know, too far backside mechanics, or your legs are flying back the way, or you're overreaching in front. So those are kind of the two things that you're trying to avoid there when you're running in that kind of upright position, minimizing the backside mechanics and overreaching in the front. And you're going to have, you know, much better ground contact, much shorter ground contact time, and you'll be able to recover that leg much quicker. And you're going to be, I suppose, putting the load more evenly throughout the body. So like when you're overstriding, you're going to be putting a lot more braking force on that hamstring in front, and it's not going to like that over time. That's the thing. These things mightn't cause a problem in the short term, but in the long term, over time, that build up, that's where the problems are normally caused. So yeah, going to get stuck into this first 100 metre now before I cool down again, and I'm going to take off this windbreaker because I'm roasting now. So if you can see my little workout here on the watch, pretty handy. Going to press do workout and off we go. Run number 3, 15 seconds. So the aim is to not burst myself or go all too out. Going in 5. Just 2 more to go. Hitting them in about 20 seconds. Whew, that's 100 done now. So 8 reps done. Was hitting them in around 20 seconds with 30 seconds recovery. And now I've 3 minutes rest now until my next part. So next part is going to be 200 meters by 5 with 1 minute rest in between each interval. So yeah, as I was trying to say earlier, the main aim is to try and keep a consistent pace, consistent time that I'm completing those intervals at. And you know, so I'm maximising my recovery time. I'm focusing on being able to recover at that pace that I'm going at, and that's the adaptation I'm looking for here in these types of runs. Okay, so another 2 minutes rest, and we're going to go for 200 meters. So 100 meters was just from the end line to the far 13. So I'll probably go up and turn left, and I'll probably end up over there, start my next one from over there and come back around to here. And maybe I'll have a chat with you then. I'll see if I'm able to talk. But yeah, these are pretty good. Tight going, but good. Whew. Oh, Jesus. So that's the 200s done, 5 reps. Hitting them between 40 seconds, 45 seconds, under a minute anyway was the aim, you know. So into 300s now. I've 3 reps to do. I've 5 minutes rest. Well, I've 3 minutes left of my rest time before I go into the 300 meters. So yeah, so it was kind of from corner flag across the width of the pitch and then down one sideline, the 200 meters. So yeah, it's going to be a bit extra now this time. But yeah, feeling good. Again, trying to be consistent with the time I hit the distance in, then recover myself and go again. So I had 1 minute recovery between those ones, and now this time I'm going to have 90 seconds. So yeah, that'll be a nice rest time. And I'm just going for 3 reps on these, and we'll see how we're feeling after that. But yeah, it's a nice tempo session to do. You know, again, if you're missing out on team trainings, if you're missing out on games, if you have that gap now, if you're coming back from injury and you're kind of maybe phasing yourself back into team training, or you know, maybe you're not getting much game time just yet, you know, it's really good to kind of stay on top of your aerobic capacity during the season. And towards the end of this video, I'll talk a little bit more about that. I find it hard to think about things when I'm in the midst of doing these runs and stuff. But yeah. And yeah, if you're enjoying these videos, guys, make sure you like and subscribe. I do enjoy making these longer form videos. I find they're a little bit more casual for me to make rather than the short form ones. But yeah, I try my best in anyway. I'm not the best at them. I wouldn't be the most creative minded now, but I really enjoy this type of stuff, and I really enjoy, like, if someone picks up on something or even asks me a question. I had a few DMs on Instagram about, I suppose, scheduling in gym work around their team trainings and stuff. When is a good time to fit it in? So I was just kind of giving some tips on that as well. So, you know, I think it's nice when people interact, and I suppose it kind of shows me as well that maybe they're finding something interesting, which is good. So 1 minute left now of this rest, and then I'm going to get stuck back in. 300 meters to come. So that's the 300 meters done. Workout is done in basically half an hour, just over half an hour, which is pretty decent bit of work in that time. Nice bit of distance covered as well. Bit of speed work at the start. The 300s there at the end they were tight going now. It's amazing how when you start fatiguing and you start getting tired, how your running technique just starts to fail. And you start to kind of drag yourself, or you start to fall forward or kick the legs behind you. So that's why I suppose it's good to practice these things and expose yourself to that fatigue as well, and try to reinforce those positions as often as you can. Expose yourself to them as often as you can, because you want to still be able to move pretty efficiently when you start to fatigue, to again minimise that injury risk as well. So yeah, so to recap it there, warmed up, bit of mobility, bit of activation, some specific drills there to get that upright running posture going, into a couple of bleed progressions or dribble bleed progressions. My camera is going to fall here. Hold on now. Move you down here. There we go. So into a few dribble bleed progressions. Went for 3, I suppose, max efforts on those out to 30 meters. Felt good, felt bouncy enough off the floor. Again, the floor and the ground is a lot softer this week, so can't complain about that. Then into the first 100 meters intervals, did 8 reps, 30-second recovery, 3 minutes rest. Then into 200 meters by 5, with 5 minutes rest in between. In between those sets, it was 1 minute rest in between each 200 meter interval, and then into the 300 meters by 3 reps with 90 seconds rest in between those. So you know, and that's a really good session that you could progress on then as well. So like for the next time, I'd probably increase my 100 meters in terms of reps, so I could go up to 10 reps. And then you could do the same with the 200 and 300 meters, maybe not to increase all of them at the one time, or lessen your recovery time. So those would be things as well you could work on. But yeah, pretty decent session, pretty happy with it. One thing I wanted to talk about is actually, you know, the benefits of this type of session for the likes of GA players compared to maybe going for a 5k run or a 3 kilometer run, which is quite common among I suppose field sport athletes. That would be maybe the first thing that they might go and do on their own, if they don't have team training, or if they want to, I suppose, improve their fitness or improve their aerobic capacity. And you know, the thing about it is it's absolutely better than nothing, you know, going for a 5k run or going for a 3k run. And in the off season they're really good to you know, do every now and again and have them in the mix, because you're not going to be, I suppose, playing matches. You're not going to be, you may be needing that speed as much at that time. But in terms of in season, you know, you're going to get more bang for buck out of doing this type of session, because it's more, I suppose, specific to the way that you will run and recover on the pitch as well. You know, those stop-start efforts, you know, those bouts of distance that you're going to cover and then you're going to, or sorry, that you're going to run and then you're going to ask yourself to recover. It's really good for, I suppose, improving that stage, or that, I suppose, elicit that adaptation that you want to be able to bring onto the pitch. So it's not a case of don't do 3Ks or don't do 5Ks at all. Like, you know, they're better than nothing. There's not like, and if someone tells you not to do them at all, you know, you could take that with a pinch of salt, like, because if you enjoy having one or two of them in the mix every now and again, obviously it's not the best idea to do them if you have a game at the weekend, you had two team trainings, and then you go out for a 5k run. You know, that's going to accumulate a lot of volume on the legs, and you're going to elicit very little adaptation from that for the game, only probably fatigue and tiredness. So that's something that you don't want. But you know, with a big gap like this now between league and championship, it's okay to include them, but I'd also be trying to include something like this type of session here. It's going to be perfect to give you some top up on conditioning, and as I mentioned earlier there, having some off-week conditioning as well. If you do get stuck into the team trainings a little bit more and you're more heavy on the pitch, topping up with some off-week conditioning is going to be just as good as well. Take more stress off the body too. So yeah, that's pretty much a recap, guys, of the session. Again, like, subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts if you'd like to see more of these videos. Hope you find it helpful. And as always, if you've any questions, feel free to drop me a message, Instagram at Megan Bannahan Fitness. I'm trying to shoot up stuff there all the time as well, in regards to like GA and performance and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll leave it there for now. Thanks a million.